Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Union Pacific Railroad Evanston subdivision in the HO Scale. My name is Darrell Cruz, owner and builder of the layout, and yes, you do see an excursion train on the Union Pacific Railroad Evanston sub. I was very delighted to finally get this excursion train on the rails and running. Definitely one of my favorite things about the Union Pacific is their heritage fleet, and it's really cool to kind of finally get one of the trains on there. Now, I actually have been saving up for this for quite some time. I'm not an extremely wealthy person, as contrary to what some of you probably think with the layout that I have. But it's been funded by the sale of my N-scale layout, a little bit from my regular household budget. And for excursion trains, I've been putting aside money from our members of the channel and also contributors from my Patreon account. And I was getting really close to having enough for a complete excursion train. And I thought I would have a couple more weeks to go before I got to the point where I could pull the trigger. And actually came a little bit sooner than expected, mainly because Lombard Hobbies came out with a sale on their Athearn FEF-3 locomotives. These things retail for $740, I believe, and they were initially priced at in the 500s, 550, I think, somewhere on there. Well, I found out that they had a sale for Father's Day where the price was well under $500. I think the non-sound unit is under $400, and the sound unit that I got is well under $500. So with that savings, I went ahead and pulled the trigger and picked up a complete excursion train, including the Walther's Proto passenger train cars and also a Scale Trains tender. All right, so this is a review of the Locomotive. The Union Pacific FEF-3 484 Locomotive. So here's kind of what you have when you open up the box. And if you notice, the box of all the stuff was not packed. I actually picked it up in store. And that's how I actually found out about the sale. Anyway, so they do have in the box a very extensive instruction manual with a lot of information on the prototype, a lot of detailed drawings of parts and everything. They have, this is for the FEF-2, here's the FEF-3. They have some in red that are optional parts, although a lot of those parts were included on the train that I got, so I'm not sure how that all works. Here's it is for the tenders, maintenance information, and this is, well, way more decoder information that I've ever seen in the instructions. They have all the CV values listed. I wish Athearn would do this more. It's very, a lot of times they don't give you a whole lot of information on the programming and the configuration variables and so forth. Some more information and some blank pages. Not sure why they include that. Probably just the way it worked out as far as the booklet goes. And then we have, of course, the actual models. It's packaged separately as far as the locomotive and the tender. And this is pretty much typical packaging for Athearn, actually for a lot of them. One thing I could figure out is why they decided to have this small piece of styrofoam that's a little bit different than normal. Had some double-sided tape to hold it in the middle. So I guess I don't know if they're trying to save money on the styrofoam, or maybe people complained about the styrofoam coming out, so that's why they had this double-sided tape. But anyway, not a big difference. And here, of course, is the locomotive with the wires and connectors and drawbar. Have to be really careful with all locomotives, but especially steam locomotives, on handling, since there is such a extensive amount of details. You see something just came off. Now that was not, I'll talk a little bit more about that detail that just dropped off. It was sitting on top of the boiler. And I'll get into the more exactly what that was. I haven't quite figured it all out yet. And they usually trying to get better about putting things back before I get to the next one, so I don't have a big mess of stuff when I'm done. All right, the tender, same type of packaging with a smaller styrofoam. And I was already starting to think, okay, how's this connect together? Definitely a little bit more difficult process than a diesel locomotive where you just set it on the rails. But initial look at everything, I was pretty impressed with the detail. They did give you some extra detail parts, which I didn't know what they were initially, although I figured out the biggest part there is pretty important, and I did add it. All right, I did get them connected up. And you can hear the steam a little bit. There is a plug for the wires that goes from the locomotive to the tender, and then there's a connecting bar that just kind of fits together. Now there's an important part missing, which I'll add here in a little bit, but here you can take an initial look at the detail. I am definitely not an expert on locomotive details, especially steam locomotives. You'll say that little part that's bent up behind the cab that actually will be pushed level once I get the other part on. Here's a look at the tender. The first two wheels of the tenders are a separate truck, and then the 5 wheels behind it, the 5 axles I should say, are all on a rigid truck, although didn't have any trouble with it negotiating any turnouts or curves or anything. Definitely a lot of detail. And everything seems to be in place and done very well. And here's a look at the top of the locomotive, smokestacks. This does not come with a smoke, but you can get smoke adapters for it. Now that hole there on the boiler is a screw hole, I believe. And I have this detail part that I haven't really figured out yet exactly where it goes. A little bit more on that later. This is the back of it. That's the Accumate coupler. Nice rivet detail and handrails and grab irons and everything. Painting is very opaque, and lettering is done extremely well. One thing I did notice was the painting on the drivers. Here's the other side. So the white walls look very cool. They have the not quite on the rails on the front truck there. The second axle on the front truck is not on correctly. But anyway, here's the other side front. I think I am going to maybe dim the number boards a little bit. They seem to be overly bright. But anyway, the painting on the drivers is very good. The painting on the trailing truck, and here you can see the black paint on the drivers and the white walls. Look, I guess something that caught my eye. I was looking very realistic and cool. I probably won't weather this too much, if at all. I think when UP runs these, they keep them pretty clean. Hey, here's the part I added. That big part was this, the steps into the front of the tender, and then you have the little part there that folds down. Figured that out after I did the first video, and I was able to put that part on. So you have a place for the firemen to walk between the tender and the cab, and there also is a vent here that you can move. Now that one part there that's sticking up right there, that's the part I can't figure out. So if you know what that is, I figured it goes right there, but it won't go down all the way, and I'm sure it doesn't look like that. I actually ran it across the railroad with that up, but here you get an idea of the headlight. The headlight is bright when it's looking straight down like this, but if you look at it from the side, you can't hardly see that it's lit at all. I think that might be a different headlight than on the other units. This is the Excursion 844, and I'm sure they probably have a different headlight than what you would have on the production models, the other road numbers that were actually used in freight service back in the 1940s when this was first produced. You get an idea of the sounds, the bell and the whistle. Sound on steam engines is even cooler than sounds on diesel. Now the chuffs are really quiet now. I was playing around with the configuration variables, and Soundtracks has this real cool thing called digital exhaust. It's DDE, digital something exhaust. But the chuffs are louder when it's under load, and it's quieter when it's not having any load. So it's real quiet right now. I have it set for the biggest difference. I may adjust that a little bit. Here you can see the back light. And as you can see, it runs extremely smooth, even at speed step 1. But it's pretty cool when you're just running downhill or you're running without any load. The chuffs are pretty quiet. When it gets a full train going and you're going uphill, the chuffs get louder, and so on. So it is pretty cool. And it is kind of cool the way the chuffs match the strokes of the drivers, of the side rods and everything, and the valve gear. Beautiful locomotive. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this. Running across the railroad, I have it in track 12. Haven't figured out exactly where I'm going to be putting these in the staging yard, since I have every track filled with a train, but there are a couple of locals that have are shorter trains, and there's room for the short train and the locomotive. or the excursion train. So that's probably what we'll do. Okay, we'll take it out here. Now you notice already, since it's actually pulling a train, the chuffs are louder. When it gets going up the grade, up the Wasatch grade, it gets the loudest. I did have some dead spots here and there, but I think it's mainly from the track work, not any fault with the locomotive. This locomotive will be good for me to make sure I got all the track work exactly level and so forth. There's a couple places where I think the track twists a little bit, and that rigid truck somehow didn't quite follow that. And I think there was some dead spot issues to that. And I had some spots also where there was some pretty dirty track. So I did have to clean a few spots, but I think all of the power pickup is on the tender, although I'm not sure about that. It does have 4 traction tires as we kind of pick up some speed here. I'm going to be going at 40 miles per hour rather than the normal 25 or 22. So this will go by a lot faster than when I'm going a little bit slower, but so we're cranking it up to 40 scale miles per hour. But anyway, it does have 4 traction tires on one side. Okay, remember right now which side it is. So I'm not sure how much is picked up, if it's electrical pickup from the trailing and leading trucks or not. But I know there is pickup from the tender. But once I fixed the couple of spots on the track work that weren't quite level, it runs flawlessly. No issues with power pickup at all. Luckily, the track that I have ballast was fine and actually runs perfect on that. Here we're coming through the Echo Canyon area. Going to try and remember to blow the horn each time. I probably will do a review on the Scale Trains tender and the Walthers Proto passenger cars. They are from the Heritage fleet. You can see that first one there is actually from the Promontory excursion, which was in 2019. My error on the layout is 2015, so really wouldn't be appropriate for my error to run that particular car and not the big boy, which didn't come around till 2019, and I have an error of 2015. However, I'm kind of thinking I may stretch the era thing for the excursion trains. I think that might be a good idea as we go under Curvo into another tunnel. You can see the chuffs are pretty loud now as it's going up the grade. This is the end of the peninsula. And then this section here is the steepest part. So you can see it slowing down a little bit. And this is where it kind of works the hardest. That hill kind of threw my focus off. And we're back. All right, so this is the Wasatch control point. Notice that we're going downhill a bit now, so the chuffs are a lot quieter. Need a stack train. Now, when we run this excursion train, we'll probably have them make stops along the way. That's kind of been my experience when I've seen excursion trains, videos of them or seen them in person. They'll make stops at different towns so people can take pictures and kind of get a good look at the locomotive and everything. They probably want to slow down just for the fact that there's a lot of people around too. But anyway, when we run this, we'll probably have the train stop at a few places, probably at Echo, where there'll be a crossing and some roads. And then again, it'll stop at Evanston. Maybe stop at Taggart Tunnels also, or at Double Slide. And as we make the transition to the second level. Might possibly make a stop at Granger also. So anyway, if you're going 40 miles an hour the whole way through, it takes about, under 15 minutes, 12, 13 minutes or so. So definitely it'll be good to do some stops along the way so it's not such a quick run through, and then also give the dispatcher a way to have to route trains around the stopped excursion train. Here you can get a good look at the Walther's proto cars. I think almost all these are from their heritage fleet. If you go to the up.com website, they have a section on their website where they will list all the rolling stock and locomotives that they have for the excursion service. All the passenger cars, their tenders, and then their locomotives. The ones that I saw so far is this FEF-3, which did run in 2015, I believe. It's been around for a while. The Challenger, which it did run for quite a while, but then they went out of service, and now I think they're trying to get it back into service. That's a Challenger. I'll probably want to get that one at some point in time. And then they also have E9s, an ABA set, and probably will want to get some of those too. So this is going to be a while, but definitely want to thank all of the people from my members who have contributed to this. Really appreciate your support. And a special shout out to these few who have been my members the longest. They've been members for, I think, 14 months. Ever since I started it, there's been a few people who have been members the whole time through and contributing every month. Thank you so much. This is your train. Hope you're enjoying watching it run across the layout. And of course, members, if you're ever in the area, let me know and you'll be able to run it yourself. If you want one of these locomotives yourself, make sure you stop by at Lombard Hobbies or take a look at their website and pick up whatever units they may have left. Definitely a great deal on a great locomotive. And now, one thing, when you're going 40 scale miles per hour, when you walk around, it's a lot further along than when I do the regular freight locomotives. You can see it definitely made a little bit more of a journey down the main line while I walked around. But we're coming near the end here. Coming up to Peru on the second level. You can see Evanston down below. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this first excursion. Trains hopefully be lots more coming up in the months to come. Make sure you like this video, comment if you can. Let me know if you know what the deal is with that part. And thanks again for watching. Everybody have a great week and take care.